conference relates to the flag off initiative. It also gives the Ministry of Lands an opportunity to give an update on all land-related activities. Today, November 20, 2025, we flag off phase 2 of our public sensitization of this government's Get Your CFO in 30 Days initiative. In flagging of this initiative, we're also reporting on how we have fared so far in our CFO in 30 Days drive. Plus, we'll also be giving an update on various aspects of land administration in Abia. Since the inception of this regime, Governor Alex Uti has signed 3,256 Cs of oath. In this year alone, he signed 1,778 Cs of oath. To put these numbers in context, the number of Cs of oath signed within 2 years plus of this regime is higher than the total number of Cs of oath signed in the last 7 years before the inception of this regime. In this year alone, the 1,778 Cs of oath that have been signed by His Excellency Governor Alex Uti is the highest number of Cs of oath signed in a single year in Abia from 1999 to date. When compared to other states, Abia State is also doing very well. The advantages of our CFO in 30 Days policy includes its tremendous impact on the ease of doing business. Your title document unlocks the value of the land. So we have an upswing in the application for mortgages. But we feel that people are not even taking advantage of this well enough. But with the seamlessness with which you can get your Cs of oath, more mortgage applications are coming in. It also impacts on the security of your property and the seamless transfer of that property from one person to the other. Gone are the days when getting a C of O was a privilege and it takes years or decades. We are not perfect, but we hold ourselves accountable and we're able to track every application for a C of O from start to finish. Some of the challenges we face against the C of O in 30 Days policy includes faulty surveys. So sometimes you come to make an application, but your survey is still in the old form, what we call the local origin or the national origin, and you then have to upgrade it to what we refer to as the Universal Traverse Marketer. Sometimes the customer delays in bringing back an acceptable survey, or sometimes payments for the assessed ground rent or the valuation of your property or whatever other issues cause delays or submission of the wrong data. But like I said, in Abia, we run a transparent and accountable system where we track your CFO from start to finish. The last time this press conference was held in December of 2023, we were just commencing this process. As an accountable government, it's good that close to 2 years after, we are coming back to you with the numbers. So we can boldly assess that the CFO in 30 Days policy is working. And all Abians should key into it in order to extract the maximum value from their land or property. As Abia is set to carry out groundbreaking for several of its housing projects, plus as we're also about to commence fresh land allocation, and we're also in the process of opening up new layouts. The fact that you can get Cs of O to back up these new land allocations and properties that are coming to the market adds more value to your land and property. While processing Cs of O in 30 days, we have also stepped up on court orders, order enforcements in the payment of statutory dues relating to land, such as ground rents and payment of changes in the purpose clause in your title documents. Enforcement just started in 2025. His Excellency on land matters had graciously granted waivers and enforcement in 2023 and 2024. Because its oft-mentioned statement is that taxation is the government's share of prosperity it creates for the people. So in giving a break on enforcement activities in 2023 and 2024, the government needed to generate the needed goodwill. But in 2025, we have been very stringent with compliance. Ground rent is a statutory due as long as you have a CFO and is payable on the 1st of January of every year. Having spoken about our CFO in 30 days policy, I would also like to talk briefly about other activities of the ministry. These activities include land acquisitions. Abia State has been turned into one large construction site. From Okwa to Umunnochi, there are developments happening everywhere. And all developments happen on land. And development cuts across all sectors. Be it works, be it power, be it housing, be it the schools, be it the health sector, and all these things require land. The ministry is saddled with the task of acquiring land for what the Land Use Act 1978 describes as for overriding public interests. But this government follows due process in the acquisition of land and also ensures that based on the tenets of the law, that fair compensation is paid when land is acquired. Some of the notable acquisitions that we are carrying out includes the Abia Airport in Nsulu. We also have this government recovering lands of a previous acquisition relating to the Abia Palm in Okwa East and partly Ugunabo. The land acquisition for the various housing projects we're doing, for the medical city, for the new heritage city, and various land acquisitions happening across Abia North, where we have various agro-allied industries and investors coming in. The power sector is not left out, as the government is following through on the right of way for the transmission line between Umuahia and Mbalano, and Umuahia and Ohafia. And we also have the new transmission line moving from Umuahia to the Nsulu Airport, where a power station will set up at Amakama, which becomes an industrial area. So across the agri sector, the sports sector, the housing sector, roads, power, industry, transport, where you have the planet projects happening in Umuahia and also happening in Aba, the health sector, and the education sector. You see that this administration is very busy with the impact on lands. I use this opportunity to extend the gratitude of this administration for the cooperation of Abians in the land acquisition exercise. Another aspect of the activities of this ministry on behalf of the Alex Oti administration is the mapping of the entire Abia. The size of Abia sits on over 4,000 square kilometers of land, and the mapping of the states has commenced. It has commenced with the establishment of monuments, which are geodetic control points across 66 locations in the states. The establishment of these monuments, which is scattered across the entire local government, precedes the flyover of a state by a manned aircraft, capturing images at 8-centimeter resolution. These images captured is what forms a base map of Abia that gives us an accurate representation of the state of things in Abia and also forms the basis for the structural / master plan of the state. This impacts on land administration, planning, identification of our critical public and security assets. This is another significant achievement of the state. This exercise is set to be concluded by May 2026. A third aspect of the activities of the Ministry of Lands for this administration is a revamp of our public buildings. And in revamping of our public buildings, we tackle it on a strategic basis. And one such cluster is the state secretariat that we are in. The state secretariat we are in, when we came in as an administration, there was no water, there was no light. The state of the public infrastructure was poor, there was no fencing, and it was exposed. Strategically, we have revamped the public infrastructure, opening up the closed Nnamdi Azikiwe Secretariat, revamping the 2 buildings which were done by the TOG administration, and about to commence a 3rd building, the construction of the crèche, the completion of the fencing, and various other aspects of the secretariat. So that as Abians, we have a secretariat that we are collectively proud of. It also helps with the co-location of our ministries and MDAs, so they're not scattered in different locations. And with this co-location, you find out that the off-grid solar being done by the Ministry of Power, the fiber optic cables being laid through the Office of the Chief Information Officer, co-location of resources, better management, a more conducive environment for our civil servants. Another cluster in revamping our public buildings is the Government House. If you drive down the Library Avenue, you see the brand new office of the SSG. You see the urban renewal happening on the fencing. You see the reopened Michael Opara Auditorium and various works happening within the Government House. With this administration having made the strategic decision to maintain that location as a better option for Abians. Another option in our development of our public buildings is the relocation of Ministry of Agric to the former law campus and all that, and the development is in process. The last activity of the Ministry of Lands is the recovery and regularization of our various layouts. As a government, we inherited a lot of untidy land transactions. Lands with which you have multiple allocations on one single land, or you have land with all sorts of issues where people warehouse allocations without developing, leading to a very untidy land administration. As a responsible government, we inherit the assets and liabilities of the government before us as we set to create a new foundation for Abia. One of such locations is Lodu, which we have cleaned up and we are presently regularizing the titles. The Barrack of our public servants layout, we have also replanned and ensure that that cluster is focused on public institutions to guide the outward spread of immigration and other institutions clustered in that area. We are presently replanning and regularizing the Abia industrial layout, which was created in the 70s by the Abia regime, and various other layouts scattered across the states. As we step into the Yellow season, we encourage all Abians to take advantage of our COO in 30 days policy to obtain their COO with ease, plus regularize their title documents. Obtaining your COO is a seamless process. You do not need a middleman. You do not need a middleman. We operate a one-stop shop with the bank, the BIR, the Office of the Surveyor General, all residents in our customer service center. Our contact number remains 0916 000 2083. Through this line, you can reach us at any point in time, and our email is cfo@abiastate.gov.ng. Physical presence in Umuahia is within the Secretariat, Block A, 2nd floor, State Secretariat, and in Aba, you'll find us at number 1 Industrial Road, Obo Hill. So part of the challenge we face with land acquisition is bearing the burden of previous governments. So when we go to various committees, Abians have a high appreciation of what His Excellency Governor Alex Oti is doing, but to refer you to acquisitions done in the past and how it wasn't appropriately executed by the previous governments. But for this government, within 2 years plus of this administration, sufficient good faith has been shown to indicate that our approach towards land administration is guided by the rule of law and is also done with a human face. Yes, there will be challenges along the way, but we are very forthright in addressing these challenges. So we tackle things on the land on a case-by-case basis. But the guiding principle for this administration is that, yes, based on the law, Land Use Act 1978, land is vested in the governor of a state. And if that land is needed for what the law describes as overriding public purpose, it permits the governor to acquire. But in acquiring the land, fair compensation should be paid. Now the guiding words for this administration is, when we acquire land, it is for overriding public purpose. It is never for personal purpose or pecuniary gain, where we take land and then facilitate and sell to our cronies and all that. Be it the airport being developed, be it a road being opened up, be it a housing estate for public use being done, be it an agricultural investment, it is always guided by overriding public interest. And when we acquire this land, we pay fair compensation. Where there are issues arising from the payment of compensation, we tackle it forthrightly on a case-by-case basis. Under one, I'll have to keep re-emphasizing through the course of this interview, because that is my headline issue, that C of O in 30 days is working and encouraging Abians to go for their title documents so that you can unlock the financial benefits, so that you can have security for your title, so that you can have a seamless transfer of your title from one person to the other. And as we are in the yellow tie season and people are coming home, we want them to take advantage of this period and also test the sincerity of what we are doing. You don't need a middleman to process your C of O. That is the essence of this interview. Have we revoked Cs of O? Yes. And that comes under the recovery and regularization of various layouts. Because when government gives you an allocation, it is spelled out there in your allocation letter that you should develop within a defined period of time. And that development should be up to a certain value. So we're moving away from a period where corrupt government officials warehouse Cs of O. We need development across board. So if you have a government allocation and you haven't developed it or fulfilled the terms of your allocation, then you stand the risk of that C of O being revoked, as we have done in a number of instances. What is the number of Cs of O we revoked? I don't have that number off the top of my head. Also, times when we revoke Cs of O is when we have allocations on top of allocations. And that is what we're talking about, regularizing various areas. Let me use low-do as an example. We take responsibility for whatever issues, but we cannot have a piece of land where you have two people with the same claim. We have to take a position. This person has a superior title, this other person, if indeed he has paid to the government, okay, we'll keep pending and sort out somewhere else. Or we look at areas that haven't been developed and we see that people are sitting on allocation letters and sitting on Cs of O and they have not fulfilled the terms of those Cs of O. In those instances, we revoke. Also, in instances where we have overriding public need for that piece of land, be it an investment, transport related, agri related, or opening up a road, in such instances, we have also revoked Cs of O. But this government has not revoked anyone's Cs of O on a vindictive basis or on an irregular basis that is outside of the rule of law. On the Abia Airport in Sulu, one, the government has completed payment for the runway. For people within the runway, and I say this on a very guided basis, so when you quote the completed, and also quote the acknowledgement that there are people within the runway that may have been omitted. And those omissions have been captured in the rest of the airport report, which is being processed. One. Secondly, true, in the course of the due process and vetting, where there are instances of any alleged irregularities, for example, there was a press statement indicating there were names of people from other ethnic groups captured in our evaluation reports. In that instance, we went back to the field and indeed established that those named people are actually landowners and all that. In other instances, and also was mentioned that publish the names to the community. This is a very good practice that we have standardized. When we do valuations, we release the list to the key stakeholders in the community to vet, in addition to the public pasting and all that. And for the Nsulu Airport, on a guided basis, we have indeed released this list to vet and ensure that if there are any anomalies within the report, it is something we check and track and all that. So whatever it is, be rest assured that your government is transparent and accountable and follow through on any infractions that are noticed in any activities. We have a zero tolerance for corruption and we do not enable it in any way. The Abia Stadium traverses two communities, Iyenyi and Ajata. It sits on about 20-something hectares of land. And in terms of acquisition is of various forms. That land was initially earmarked during the military regime, and this government took the decision to stick to that earmarking. I have had community engagements in both communities, and the understanding, acquisitions of various forms. For instance, I'm from Umunochi. There's a federal polytechnic sited in my local government, and the communities on which that polytechnic is sited voluntarily donated the land. And in that case, you have it documented in an agreement. It's the same thing that happened in Iyenyi and Ajata. Because certain communities is about development. It's about the ancillary benefits that citing certain projects in your community brings. So for the Abia Airport, what we dealt with had to do with a donation. So whatever funds given to both communities was more or less what we refer to as a gift and all that. So that was how that was handled. So there is no humongous amount given to any other individual beyond what I'm talking about here. The process is still on. I think the clearing was done, but the process of the development is handled by the Ministry of Sports. In lands, we just focus on the land acquisition for the development to take place. So we serve different sectors. We serve the transport sector, we serve the Ministry of Agric, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Sports, across board. Our job is to bring unencumbered land to the table. Swing in the real estate development sector in Abia. And in order to fast track the supervision and development of our housing projects, His Excellency bifurcated the former Ministry of Lands and Housing. So you now have a separate Ministry of Housing, which would focus on the rollout of the housing projects we have in stream. As the Commissioner of Lands, what I can confirm to you that indeed, over the past 2 years of this regime, we'll spend time and energy in acquiring different pieces of different pockets of land for the rollout of our housing projects. The Ministry of Housing is ready to roll out on a number of these housing projects. And I trust before the year runs out, we will see these housing projects coming up. Also, we also maintain a close relationship with the federal And for instance, for the Federal Housing Authority, the states also successfully acquired land for the development of its 2,000 housing units. When you add this to the housing projects, this government is also going to flag up very soon, which will be announced by the Commissioner of Housing. You'll find out that we're already taking decisive steps to address the housing deficit we face. The first step was acquiring the land. Like I said, all development happens on land. So the challenge we faced was that we didn't come into a situation where we had existing land banks. Now we're in the process of creating these existing land banks. We create a buffer for us, be it for housing projects, be it for industrial zones, be it for agricultural investments. These specifics relating to Abia Govt and Onyemechi, I don't have at the tip of my finger. We will look into it. But the general comments I would like to make is that issues relating to planning and suitability of site selected lies under the jurisdiction of the Greater Abia Development Authority. I know there were plans to relocate the slaughter. In terms of suitability, locating the slaughter close to a water body, the planners would comment better on that, about that. But issues related to planning, working in tandem with the UN Habitat, the planning of the Greater Abia area has been handled with tackle or with guides, site selection, zoning, etc. For us in land administration, we also have oversight over planning, but we don't issue title documents haphazardly. We are guided by planning. So planning always leads the way, and we check the stability of locations. And because Abia's structural plan is still in process, we look into various planning issues and all. So that is the general answer I'll give relating to the Abia Govt slaughter. But if indeed there are encroachments and people are selling haphazardly and all that, it is something we would look into, because we're also very big on enforcement. On the issue of Onyemechi, I don't have the direct facts here, so I wouldn't answer to that. But what I would say, that this government is big on recovery, and we're presently recovering encroachments into our public schools. So where it comes to our notice that an acquisition was purportedly done for variety public purpose and has now been converted to private use, we take very firm stance against that kind of behavior and ensure that the appropriate recovery is done. And we have recovered a number of such properties. If that is the issue with what you just mentioned, we will follow through on it. But our general rule of law, our general rule of thumb is that our acquisitions are guided by the rule of law. One, it has to be for variety public interest. So we're not going to acquire your land and convert it into private property. Two, in line with the law, we pay fair compensation. So we are not irregular in how we determine fair compensation on what to pay. As prescribed by the law, the rates are determined by the appropriate officer in the law, in this case, the State Director of Lands.
The acquisition going on in the state, all over the state, is something that everybody, all hands will be on deck to support them. A lot of people are saying that people have come to grab their land here and there. No. The state government is out to develop the state, and development is on land. So the acquisitions that are going on right around the state are, being done by the state government. The smart city in Arongwa, Abia, is a state project. It is not a land grabbing exercise at all. So also other acquisitions right around the state, from Opa to Osisioma, Isialangwa, Umuahia, Obonochi, Sukwa. So all the acquisitions going on there are state acquisitions. So nobody should be afraid that land grabbers have come now. These are state projects that are going to help, to lift the state from where it used to be to where all of us want it to be.
The rundown, he has given us all that is going on under the Ministry of Lands, and all he has said is true. And when it comes to what the governor is doing, it may surprise some of us to know that under Governor Lexoti, acquisition started by Governor Boniano was completed under the present administration of this secretariat. This secretariat was started under Boniano as governor, but was not completed. The acquisition, this administration, by God's grace, has completed it. So like the Bible says, the governor, very messy, and everyone in Abia should support the government. When it comes to acquisitions, it enhances the value of every land. So if you have a hectare of land that is 100 million, for example, after it's been developed, the value will skyrocket to something like $1 billion. So it's in the interest of every community to liaise with government and say, this is what we desire you do for us. Even if we're not compensated that, like it was done in Umundochi, we want to partner with government, and we believe the government will do the best for every one of us. Thank you very much.